Good morning, America. Al Graham for the Coronado Clarion. I'm out doing storm chasing, and there's a huge lightning storm. On my way back from the beach, I saw this, an open vehicle full of property, and either someone was trying to get in or they'd probably just forgotten and went inside. However, I called 911 because I think, I'd hate to have my vehicle sitting there like that. Anyway, so speaking of calling 911, I didn't call 911 because it wasn't an emergency. I just called the local police and told them it wasn't an emergency, and I reported that, and they're going to come out and take a look at it. Which brings me to an incident the other day. Those of you who know me and watch my videos know that I patrol the town. I keep my eye out for criminals, drunk drivers in particular, and anything I see that I think is worth, the safety of my community and my family, I call it in. So it's for the greater good, so to speak. And the other day, two things happening. I got a drunk driver. I've got the footage. You'll see that. Somebody crazy dogging me right on my tail about 4:30 in the morning. So then he sped off down the street to Starbucks, and I called the cops. By the time they got there, he was gone, and I called him back and said I wasn't really so much worried about anything other than they might hit somebody else, and so they should be stopped and checked for drunk driving. And he said, yeah, right. And I said, could they do that? And he said, no. Because they weren't there. Anyway, they must have gone on to the base. But the next morning, I'm parking my car in front of the laundry, and this crazy old lady backs into me and dents my license plate just a little bit, enough to knock it off the... Anyway. So I called it in. I said, while I was calling it in, she started screaming at me, "You're a liar! I didn't hit your car. I hit the sidewalk. I know the difference between hitting a sidewalk and hitting a car." Perfect logic, right? So a motorcycle cop comes, shows up, and with almost like, "Oh yeah, I got this." But I try to explain what happened. He comes right up. He said, walked right past me. Took his visor off, his Darth Vader visor, took it off and started talking to this lady. "Good morning, ma'am. How are you? Everything okay here? Oh, sweetie." I was, wait a minute. You didn't even talk to me to find out what the hell happened. And he said, "Well, thank you very much, ma'am." And he stood up and he looked at me and said, "Can I see your driver's license?" And I said, "Yeah." And I put my driver's license on the car with my wallet, and I started filming. And he... So then he said, "Okay, thank you, ma'am. Goodbye." Like, okay. "Do you want to come and talk to me?" And he looked down at me and said, he put his Darth Vader mask back on. And he looked down at me and said, "I don't see enough to report an accident here." And I tried to explain to him I wasn't reporting an accident as much as I was reporting a crazy old lady who was screaming at me when I said, "Ma'am, you backed into my car." He said, No. And then he looked at me kind of weird, and he said, "What's wrong, Alan? What are you up to today?" Like I was a mental patient. And I said, "Well, around this Christmas time, I keep my eye out for things." And he said, "Well, when I came this morning, I got to work at 5 o'clock. I saw a report with your name on it that you'd spotted this driver." And I was just thinking, well, maybe Alan's out there kind of getting in the middle of stuff he doesn't have to. And I said, "How long have you worked here?" And he said, "Many years." And then he flipped his visor up and said, "You know me." And he looked at me with these dark, black, beady, suspicious eyes. I said, "Yeah, kind of." I'd run into him before, and he'd been the same abrupt, dismissive, like, "I don't know if you are telling me the truth or not, Mr. Graham." Well, anyway, so to make a long story longer, he starts doing this outer space, what can I say, gesticulations with his waving his arms and bending his legs. I thought it was like the Village People cop for a minute there. Or you ever see the old Smothers Brothers show when they had Officer Judy come on there? So this cop was like not in the mood to listen to me or tried for me to explain that I wasn't calling for an accident. I was calling for a lady that may be drunk or maybe on pills or whatever it is. She's out of control and she might just kill some kid in a crosswalk or some somebody like me trying to get across the street. Or anyway, this cop had one of those hands off. I consider that dangerous, frankly. And then I looked down. He's got a powerful 9mm on his hand, like he's got power. And I think my analysis is this: that he's a motorcycle cop, and he usually it's usually me to you. I'm giving you a ticket, therefore sit, stay, beg, don't do it. The whole authoritarian thing. But when you have to get and start using people skills, which this fellow does not have, I assure you, he's tightly wrapped, as we say in the old country, and something's definitely not right with him. He should not be, what's the word? He should not be dealing with people. Well, evidently he can't, or doesn't like to, so to speak. But he can put on the charm and act like he's normal, but something's wrong there with that fellow. And so if I ever see him or he approaches me, I guarantee you this: I will call for my sergeant, or I'll call for Lieutenant Shank, who is the goods, and so is Sergeant O'Neill, and a few other good cops. But there are a few of them there too, they're not more than rent-a-cops. And they are clueless, and it's frightening, frankly. They get this nice salary, and if they can last, they get a fabulous pension, and then they can go out and get another job. And they have a pension, and that's just for riding around on a motorcycle and giving people tickets. Yeah. Okay, well, that's my opinion. I did a story in the Clarion about the $50 million budget that this city has, and a huge chunk of it is for police services. I mean, it is just unbelievable. And so I expect, I'll call in 1,000 times. I'm not going to listen. Okay, there's PD. I'm not going to listen to, right there, cops telling me that I shouldn't be out and about and doing stuff and keeping my eye out on my community. I'm going to do what I have to do every single day, and there you have it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And the only reason I'm not mentioning the police officer's name is because I don't want to embarrass him any further, but I do hope that when he sees this video and the other officer, his peers see it, I think they'll take a little notice, and maybe he'll be put on notice.